Hello creatives, welcome to Thoovi's channel. I'm Shreya, a passionate artist, art educator, Skillshare instructor and a YouTuber from India. And I'm thrilled to be your guide today, which will be walking you through step by step of the process of creating this stunning landscape using watercolors. So gather all your supplies and let's get started. Make sure that you check the description box for all the information about the art supplies I have used. Today we'll be working with very limited color palette which will give us the perfect opportunity to explore the art of color mixing which I am super excited about. So let's get started. So today we'll be using just 6 colors to paint our whole landscape. So the colors which we are using are light red oxide, yellow ochre, permanent yellow, ultramarine blue, Persian blue and sap green. Alright, so let's get started. Let's learn how to paint clouds using wet on wet technique. Wet on wet technique means applying paint on a wet surface. So let's first apply even layer of clean water on the paper using a round brush size 8. Once we have applied even layer of clean water on the paper, make sure that you check it out by tilting your paper on either side, and if there is a lot of water accumulated, just lift it off with the brush or dab it off with the tissue. And then let's get started. So I just mixed a little bit of yellow ochre and red oxide to my ultramarine blue to desaturate it, and I applied that color on the top, and at the bottom I just took the yellow ochre in a very light value and applied that. Next I'm switching to my smallest round brush. This is a Chinese brush, but you don't require this brush to paint the clouds. I'll also show you how you can paint the clouds with the normal round brush. But first, take the blue color which we mixed for the sky. Take the round brush. If you'll notice, I am holding my brush very far away from the tip, and I'm using that brush to just tap it off on the wet surface. Again, I'm repeating the same step with the regular round brush so that you can see that it is possible to create the clouds with any brush you own. Okay, so just hold your brush a little bit farther away, and whenever you are loading your brush with paint, make sure that you are tapping off the excess paint on the tissue before applying it on the paper, so that there is less and less of paint on your brush while you are applying it on the paper. Again, I am repeating the same step, but this time I am taking the darker value of the same color and just applying it at the bottom to create a little bit of depth in the clouds. Remember, we are doing everything while the paper is still wet. So this technique will only be useful, or you will only get the softer looking clouds if your paper is wet. So make sure you do it quickly and you use the right kind of paper, that is, you use 100% cotton 300 GSM cold pressed watercolor paper to paint this landscape. Alright, now let's get into the final painting. So I'll have applied masking tape on all 4 sides of the paper, and I just placed the masking tape at the bottom so that my board is a little bit tilted. And then we'll start with the sketching part. Sketching is very simple. You just have to draw the horizon line and few tiny little mountains on top of it, and on the horizon line lastly I will draw one tiny little cottage, or you can say a tiny little house. You can pause your video here for the sketching and you can complete the sketching part and then move over to painting. These paints are super creamy and pigmented, so if you haven't checked this out, definitely have a look. Okay, so we'll be painting the sky using the same color. To make the process quicker, I am mixing my colors before wetting my paper. So here I have mixed my ultramarine blue, a little bit of red oxide. If you don't have red oxide, you can always use a little bit of burnt sienna. Okay, once I've mixed my color, I applied even layer of clean water on the sky, and then again I will start painting the base layer of the sky using the colors which we have mixed, and then at the bottom I will use the very light value of yellow ochre. Now I will switch to my brown brush and will start painting the clouds. Like I said, you have to use your smallest round brush, and before you tap it off on the paper or on the painting, you just have to tap the extra paint on the tissue before applying it on the paper. All right, so don't forget to skip this step, otherwise you will end up getting a lot of color on the paper which you don't want. Okay, so I'm just repeating the same steps, and with each layer I'm making the color a little bit dark. That way I will apply almost 3 to 4 layers of the same color, and with each layer I will go a little bit darker, and we'll be done with painting the sky. But before we complete it, I wanted a little bit of lightness behind the cloud, so I'm taking a light value of yellow ochre and applying it just at the bottom of few of the clouds which are near the mountain. That's all. We are done with the painting the sky. Now we'll paint the background mountain. So here I'll take a little bit of red oxide and I'll mix a little bit of blue to make it little darker and just desaturate a little, and we will use that color wet on the background mountain, and then we will let the whole painting completely dry. While that is drying, let's mix the greens which we'll be using to paint our mountain. So here I'm mixing sap green with a little bit of Persian blue. I also mixed the blue which we had mixed for the sky. I mixed a little bit of red oxide to desaturate it, and then I am applying an even layer of that color on whole of the mountain area. And while that is drying, let's paint the bottom. So this time I will make that layer a little bit brighter, so I'll just mix permanent yellow with my sap green and add lots of water to my paint and apply even layer of that color. Same way at the bottom, I'll just apply lot of water to my permanent yellow and apply a very light wash of that color, and in between I'll also add a little bit of yellow ochre below the mountain to create a little bit of shadow. Okay, now it's time to add all the details using wet on dry technique. So I applied one more layer of the same green color, but I used wet on dry technique to create those beautiful harsh edges which will give a lot of depth in your painting. Okay, once that is done, I will start adding the tiny little bushes on the mountain as well as around the house. And with the same color, I'll also apply one more layer of the tiny little strokes on the mountain. Okay, so it's basically keep on changing the greens. That is, if the base color is lighter, you just have to apply the second layer using the same color family but a little darker value. Got it? So like, let me give you an example. For the base layer, we applied the permanent yellow and sap green color, so I will use the same color but I will add less of water and apply the second layer on top of it. So this is the basic which you have to keep in mind when you are layering. Using the same color family, just increase the value, that is add less of water and paint that. Okay, so the same way we will apply 2 to 3 layers, but we'll be using wet on dry technique to get those very sharp, clean borders, or you can say clean details on our painting. Okay, so yeah, now I've painted the house using the yellow ochre as the base color for my roof, and I used blue and red oxide mix to paint the bottom of the house, and then I applied little strokes of red oxide on the roof, and now I am painting the dark layer of green on my bushes. Now to add a little bit of texture in the bottom part, I used yellow ochre and diluted it with water and added few splatters of the same color. Then I will add a little bit of darkness just below the house, so I'll take the red oxide and I will apply that color at the bottom and then blend it with the damp brush. With the permanent yellow, I will paint the door of the house, and with the green I will paint few huge trees around the house. and I will add a little bit of shadow just on the left with the dark green color. Lastly, I'm taking a very thick paint of the permanent yellow and adding little bit just at the bottom of the brush, and then it's time to paint few flying birds in the sky. So here I'm taking my smallest round brush and painting the V first and then a tiny little dot at the center. Again, if you're not comfortable doing it with the brush, you can always paint the brush using the pen. Right, and we are done with this painting. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm really looking forward to see your all of your beautiful work. So if you do happen to paint, then do tag me as well as Thoovi, and we would be super happy to see all of your beautiful work. If you have any doubts regarding anything, then do reach out to me on my Instagram page, and I would be happy to guide you. Alright, that's it for now. I'll see you guys really soon. Bye.